Well, Merry Christmas from New Song Church. Hope that you are enjoying some family time, enjoying some of the traditions that you may have with your family. We just opened a few presents. We like to get together and we snack on some hors d'oeuvres, and then we'll open a few presents on Christmas Eve and save the rest for tomorrow. But again, hope you're having a great Christmas. There's something that brings joy to us when it comes to things being fulfilled. There's like an excitement when you find the unexpected in life. For example, recently we were with some relatives, and we needed a cooler, and they ended up giving us this old like 50s style cooler, and I never expected to get it, but it was great to get something that was unexpected and had always been kind of interested in. Now, on the other hand, it's a much different experience when you end up with something that's different than what you expected. For example, well, hold on, in my pocket, I've got a knife that I got from Amazon. Drew and Laura had gotten me a gift card for Father's Day, and so I found this Boker knife that I liked, and I expected it, but then when I got it, it didn't look like it did online on Amazon. This is what they showed, and that's what I expected. I didn't know it was going to have a different backing on it. So, it's different when you get something than what you expected. And I found that we, today in the 21st century, we kind of expected the people in the Bible to recognize Jesus for who he was. When you read the stories of the gospel, we're kind of hard on the people who didn't necessarily recognize him as the Messiah, didn't recognize him as the Son of God right away. And so when I think about the birth story, the coming of Jesus, I think it's kind of healthy for us to stop and ask, would I have really recognized Jesus as the Messiah, as the Son of God, as God himself? Would I have recognized the importance, say, of his coming into this earth as a child? We think about that birth narrative, Mary and Joseph, and they go to Bethlehem, and there's no room at the inn, and they end up going basically to a barn, right? And they wrap him in swaddling cloths and place him in a manger. But would we have recognized his importance? And so what I really like about the Christmas stories as tonight, as we kind of think about, the coming of Jesus, what I really like is that it gives me a new perspective, one that kind of can bring some really healthy humility. And for example, some of the things that we learn from the birth story is patience. Back in the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy chapter 18, Moses tells the people, God is going to send a prophet, excuse me, and he's going to be a lot like me, and you're going to need to listen to him. And so that's like 1,500 years before the birth of Christ. And so God's people had to be incredibly patient as they're looking forward to the coming of the Messiah. We also learn through the birth of Jesus the importance of looking, of really observing, of seeing things deeper. On the appearance, the outward appearance, Jesus seems to be just a baby, just another human. But there's much more than what meets the eye. I also like the birth story and the story of Jesus coming because it teaches us that we need to learn to accept the unaccepted. Oh man, this is embarrassing. I got a terrible tickle. And so, just like, I received that cooler, I didn't expect that, but I thought about the knife I wanted, and it wasn't what I expected. We need to learn to accept the unexpected. And that's how Jesus' entire life comes. The people of Israel are not expecting the King of the Jews to come as a baby. and live in the backwoods of Galilee. They're not expecting him to live as a carpenter. They're not expecting him to die on the cross. They have something different in mind. So we need to learn to accept the unaccepted. And then we need, most importantly, to learn to anticipate the coming presence of Jesus, right? So I'm not really sure that we expect Jesus to show up. For example, when we gather together to worship, do you really think about him being there, his presence, him being with us? I don't know that we expect him to show up frequently. I don't even really know how much thought we give to the second coming of Jesus. So that's what I like about the birth story of Jesus. It teaches us to anticipate the coming and the presence of Jesus. Okay, so Jesus comes as a baby, lives his life as a normal Jewish person in Galilee, right? And he grows up, becomes a carpenter, and then becomes a rabbi. And in all of this, Jesus totally surprises everyone. It's not what they're anticipating. It's not what they're accepting. And I think, as I reflect on the Christmas story, that as Jesus surprised them, I think there's a lot of surprises that are still in store for us. We're surprised when we think deeply about the Christmas story, the birth of Christ, that Christmas isn't about the commercialization. It's not about what we're supposed to get, but it's a lot about what we're to give up. Because the example of Jesus coming in the form of a man, he gives up quite a bit. He's giving up the privileges of deity. He's giving up the presence with God the Father and the Spirit. He's giving up the glorious experience of being in heaven as he temporarily comes to earth. So Christmas isn't about what we get, it's about what we give up. And so, I think about some of the things that we give up because of the example of Jesus, and that might be self-righteousness for some people. The idea that, I'm not perfect, because if I were, Jesus didn't need to come. I give up my worries because of the relationship with Jesus, my burdens, my fears, the things I'm concerned about. I'm able, because of that relationship, to turn it over. I'm able to give up having to be right all the time, and I don't have to be a know-it-all. And what I really like about Jesus' example is I give up having to appeal to everyone's expectations. Jesus didn't meet everyone's expectations. They weren't expecting the way that he would come into this earth, the way he would live, the way he would perform ministry, and again, the death on the cross. So may this Christmas season, as you enjoy it with your families, you eat lots of food together, as you open presents, as you celebrate the coming of the Messiah, may this Christmas season help us refocus on Jesus. Help us and help us to expect him to show up in our homes, in our communities, and maybe most importantly, when we gather together as a community of believers and in our churches. May God richly bless this Christmas weekend, and may you really enjoy time with your family and be refocused on Jesus. Thanks.